Welcome back to the Deep Dive. Today we are taking on a topic that, I'll be completely honest with you, my woo-woo alarm was just, blaring when I first saw it.
I'd imagine.
We're talking about feminine magic.
Mm-hmm.
And before you tune out thinking this is some kind of fantasy novel review or a crystal healing workshop, just stick with us.
Please do, because the argument presented here is actually incredibly grounded.
It is. I was shocked.
And I get the skepticism. I do. When we hear those words, we immediately think of aesthetics, right? Performance. Maybe flowy skirts, incense, that sort of thing.
Exactly. I'm thinking vibes. But the sources we're diving into today argue that we have, well, completely misunderstood what feminine even means in a structural sense.
Right. It's not a mood. It's not a costume.
They're saying it's about physics, about how reality actually organizes itself.
That's the core thesis. The text defines feminine magic not as something you do, but as origin function.
Okay, origin function. Let's stop right there and really unpack that. That sounds way more like computer code than a spell.
That is a perfect analogy, actually. Think of it like source code or an operating system. The material calls it the encoded generative intelligence that allows life to arrive and organize.
Without asking for permission.
Without asking for permission.
That phrase, it just jumped out at me. It implies this inherent authority that we just don't usually associate with the word feminine.
Precisely. And the text makes a really sharp distinction between this and how we normally see authority. Nature doesn't hold a committee meeting to decide if an oak tree should grow.
Right. It doesn't file a request with management.
Exactly. It grows because the pattern for growth, that intelligence, is encoded within the seed. That internal encoding, that is the feminine principle.
So we're moving away from the cliche that feminine just means, I don't know, soft or submissive. We're reframing it as the architectural blueprint of life itself.
Yes, the blueprint. And this is where this whole deep dive gets really practical for anyone listening, whatever your gender. Because if you get this blueprint, this origin function, it completely changes how you look at power.
And burnout.
And burnout, absolutely. And how you navigate stress.
Okay, let's get into the weeds on this source concept. The text draws a really hard line between source, with a capital S, and authority. In our world, the corporate world, we think those are the same thing. The CEO is the source of the paycheck and the authority on the strategy. How does this material separate them?
It's a critical distinction. Authority, it argues, is usually external. It's the boss, the law, the rules that are imposed from the top down.
Like a sky god energy, I think is what they call it.
Yes, exactly. Something looking down and telling you what to do. But source is defined as generative intelligence that designs continuity.
Okay. Generative intelligence that designs continuity. Can you give us the simple version of that? What does that look like in practice?
Well, think of the difference between a mechanic fixing a car and a gardener tending a plant.
Okay.
The mechanic is an external authority. He is forcing parts together, using torque, imposing his will. If he walks away, that car does nothing. But the gardener is facilitating a process that's governed from within the plant. The plant knows how to grow. The gardener just aligns with that intelligence, that internal governance, that form-making capability. That's it.
It's interesting you say form-making. The text uses the word patterning a lot. That says this power isn't about force, it's about patterning.
Right. And this is where we get tripped up in modern life. We're conditioned to think that to, make things happy, and we have to push.
We have to hustle, exert force, conquer the problem.
But the text just asks you to look at biology. Your body isn't forcing your heart to beat. It's not a conquest. It's a pattern just being executed over and over.
It's the quiet inevitability of it.
Yes. And because it's governed from within, nature feels alive, not controlled.
Which brings us to the word magic. Okay, so the text defines magic as reality responding to alignment, which is, surprisingly secular.
I love this definition. It just strips away all the superstition, doesn't it? It's not about pulling a rabbit out of a hat. It's about the fact that when a system is perfectly aligned with its own design, the outcomes are so efficient they look miraculous.
Oh, that's a great way to put it. It reminds me of watching a professional athlete, like a basketball player, when they're in the zone.
Yes.
They're not thinking about the mechanics of their elbow. They're not forcing the ball. They're just in flow, and the ball just goes in. And to me, on the couch, that looks like magic.
But to them, it's just alignment. That is exactly, that's origin function in action. What we often call luck is just coherence.
Okay, but let's be real for a second. That sounds great in theory, just align with the universe. But we live in a world that runs on a very different kind of power.
We do.
The text contrasts this alignment power with masculine power.
Yeah.
And we should clarify for everyone, we are not talking about men and women here.
Not at all. These are energy dynamics that exist in everyone. They're principles. The text says the masculine principle tends to operate through separation. It defines things by cutting them out. Self versus other, this versus that.
Which, to be fair, is incredibly useful.
Oh, absolutely.
I need to know where I end and the bus begins. Separation keeps us safe. We need boundaries, definitions.
The text isn't bashing separation, it's necessary. But it argues that feminine power operates differently. It operates through coherence and integration.
So it holds multiple truths together.
Without them collapsing, yes.
I think this is where that softness misconception creeps in, though. If you're just integrating everything, aren't you just being passive? Aren't you basically a doormat?
That's the biggest misunderstanding the text tries to correct. It says integration is not passivity, it is structural strength, and it uses the metaphor of the womb.
Yeah, let's break that down, because that metaphor can feel a little reductive sometimes.
It can, but think about what a womb does structurally. It takes raw, chaotic potential and holds it in this specific, high-tension environment so that it can organize into complexity.
So it's not soft in the sense of being weak.
Not at all. It's structural containment. It's the ability to hold space for creation without collapsing under all that pressure.
It's active holding. It's like the difference between an open field and a greenhouse.
A greenhouse is a great comparison. It protects, it regulates, it nurtures, but it is a structure.
Right.
And to show how this power moves, the text uses the metaphor of water.
Right. But not the gentle stream version.
Not at all. It says water adapts without losing itself. That line really stuck with me.
Me too, because usually if I say I'm adapting at work, it means I'm compromising. I'm giving something up.
But water doesn't give anything up. It changes shape to fit the vessel, but it stays H2O. It retains its essence. And it shapes stone not by smashing it, but through consistency. It permeates.
This was that escalation versus deepening distinction, right?
Right.
Masculine power might escalate, get louder, harder.
Buy a bigger gun, shout louder. Yeah.
Feminine power deepens. It saturates the obstacle until the obstacle itself dissolves.
It's non-linear power. And the text connects this to our own internal systems. Things like emotional intelligence, bodily knowing, intuition.
The stuff we usually call soft skills.
Right. The nice-to-haves. The text calls them primary navigation systems. They're the water logic inside of us.
This connects directly to timing and cycles. If you're on water logic, you can't force the timeline. Nature doesn't rush.
It pulses. It's such a biological rhythm. We are obsessed with linear growth charts going up and to the right forever.
But nature moves in cycles. Expansion, contraction, inhale, exhale.
Exactly.
I feel like I need that tattooed on my hand. I catch myself trying to force a seed to open a project at work, a conflict. I want it resolved now.
And the text would say that's a lack of intelligence. It defines patience not as waiting around, but as intelligence expressed as patience. It's knowing the physics of the seed. If you pry it open, you kill it.
So patience is actually a form of technical knowledge. It's strategic.
It's high-level strategy. It's the reason rivers curve. They don't force a straight line because that's inefficient. They follow the path of least resistance, which is actually the path of greatest wisdom.
Okay, so here's the friction point. We have this pulsing, curving, integrating intelligence. And then we have modern life, which is basically a straight line drawn with a Sharpie.
Yeah. The text has a pretty grim take on that. It calls it systemic burnout. It argues that because we've rejected this feminine design, we're essentially breaking the machinery of our own lives.
We're trying to run the software on the wrong hardware.
Exactly. The symptoms are listed so clearly. Endless growth without rest. Productivity without regeneration. Logic without meaning.
Productivity without regeneration. Wow. That's the one that just hits home for so many people. It's that feeling of grinding gears.
You're doing the work, hitting the KPIs, but you're not refilling the well. You're just extracting.
Yeah.
And the scary part, or maybe the validating part, is that you can't actually delete the feminine principle. It's a law of physics. If you suppress it, it doesn't just go away.
It distorts.
It distorts. The text says when intuition is dismissed, it goes underground and becomes paranoid.
Or just generalized anxiety.
Right. And when embodiment, just being in your body, is shamed, it reemerges as disordered hunger.
Wow. It's looking for the nourishment it was denied.
It's looking for the source. And when we ignore that cyclical wisdom, systems burn out. The text explicitly calls burnout a correction.
A correction.
Yeah.
That's a heavy word, like a market correction.
Very similar. If a system is out of balance, physics demands a correction. Burnout is the body saying, you refuse to stop, so I am stopping you.
It's not a failure of willpower.
No, it's the reassertion of the design. It's the feminine principle pulling the emergency brake because the train is going off the rail.
It's saving you from yourself.
Exactly.
Okay, I want to pivot to what I think is the most radical part of this.
Yeah.
We've talked about water, wombs, patience,
Mm.
which, let's be honest, can still sound a little gentle.
A little nice.
But the text just destroys this myth of softness.
It does. This is where it gets ruthless. It states, the softness associated with femininity is only 1 octave of its range.
Only 1 octave, so what's the rest of the keyboard?
Ruthless clarity. The text argues that true feminine power is inseparable from boundaries.
Okay, explain that. Because boundaries sound like walls, which sounds like that masculine separation we talked about.
Think about a cell membrane. It's not a dumb wall, it's a gatekeeper. It creates a domain. It decides what gets in and what stays out.
So it's selective.
Highly selective. The womb is selective. The earth does not grow everything everywhere. There is discernment. Not everything deserves access to source energy.
Not everything deserves access.
Yeah.
That's remarkably harsh. It goes against so much of our social programming.
It's harsh, but it's necessary for life. If your body allowed every bacteria to grow, you'd die. The feminine function includes the power to say no, to say, this ends here.
And it brings up storms and decay here, too.
Yes. Storms, decay, death, birth, they're all feminine functions because they manage the life cycle. There's this one line, what does not align is composted.
Composted, not just thrown away. It's broken down to feed the next thing.
It's efficiency. The text says, this is not cruelty, it is efficiency in service of life. If something is dead, the most life-affirming thing to do is let it become soil.
So that ruthless clarity is actually about keeping the whole system healthy.
Exactly. It's the sovereignty to decide what gets to live in your world.
So we have this incredible complex picture. It's structural, intelligent, patient, but also ruthless and discerning. Now, the text is very clear. This isn't about tossing out the masculine principle.
Yeah, and that's so important. This isn't a battle of the sexes. It's about restoration. The argument is that the feminine needs to be restored to its place as source logic, as the blueprint.
And so where does the masculine fit in? If the feminine is the architect.
The masculine serves that logic. It protects, clarifies, and carries it outward.
I like that visual. The feminine is the blueprint. The masculine is the contractor building the house.
Right. The text warns, without the feminine, action is hollow. That's the hamster wheel doing things just to do them.
But without the masculine, form remains unexpressed.
You have the greatest idea in the world, but it never leaves your head. It never enters the physical world. You need both.
You need the blueprint and the builder, the river and the riverbanks.
And when they're in balance, creation becomes sustainable. Love becomes self-generated rather than extracted.
Extracted love. That sounds exhausting.
Doesn't it? It implies you're trying to pull it out of the world to fill a hole inside you. But self-generated means it comes from that internal alignment. And magic becomes lived coherence. It's not a big spectacle. It's just things working as they were designed to work.
It's just amazing how this reframes everything.
Yeah.
It really asks you to stop looking at feminine as a costume or a role you play and start seeing it as the operating system of reality.
It's the physics of flow.
So as we wrap up, let's ground this one last time. For the person listening, maybe stuck in traffic, doing dishes, feeling that burnout creeping in, why did this matter to them right now?
I think the takeaway is that you don't have to force your life into being. It's an invitation to shift from a pressure-based existence to a coherence-based one. If you're feeling immense resistance, it might not be because you aren't trying hard enough.
It might be because you're fighting the design.
You're trying to swim upstream, and the river's always going to win. The invitation is just to let the river curve.
That concept of origin function, it's so empowering. It's not about learning a new trick. It's about remembering how life already works.
There's a quote in the summary that sums it up perfectly. It says, "Feminine magic is simply life remembering itself through you."
Life remembering itself through you.
Yeah.
That's a powerful place to end. And I want to leave everyone with one final thought from the text that I've been chewing on all week. It says, when you stop resisting the design, reality bends, not because you forced it, but because you aligned with it.
That's the real magic.
That is the magic. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive. We hope this gives you a new lens to look at the world and maybe yourself today.
Until next time.